Hello, 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 my friends. Welcome to the Pages, the show where I almost forgot the show where we get to talk to the creators that make the things we love. I'm your host, Nicholas W. Fuller, and I'm joined today by the master of Grimdark himself, Michael R. Fletcher. How you doing, Mike?
I am good. How you doing, Nicholas?
I'm doing very good. I'm happy to say that we're going to have at least one person watching today. This guy, Mike Fletcher, is going to be that guy. What a jerk off he is,
man. He's probably lying anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's not really gonna watch.
No.
He's not gonna see a second of this. All right, and we should be live on Instagram too now. Hello, Instagram. I'm joined by Mike Fletcher tonight. I'm excited. I was telling you before, I've got the whole set now. You're the last of the Wizards, Warriors, and Words co-hosts that I get to interview, so that's kind of a fun little thing. But I used to listen to you guys like every week.
Saved the best for last, though. I mean, let's just say that right now.
Right?
Who was the first one you had on?
Dirk. Yeah.
The easy kill, the cheap
seats. Right. Yeah. Yep. And he was just, he was nice and everything. And then I talked, right?
Nicer.
Then I talked with Rob, and he was cool and fun and whatever. Then I talked to Jed, and that was all good. And now, I mean,
into the shitter.
Good evening, Bo. Thanks for being here. Yeah, no, I used to listen to you guys on Wizards, Warriors, and Words every week. That was a fun one. I enjoyed it. But apparently you never knew that you were dispensing advice, huh?
Yeah, I still don't think we were dispensing advice. I think we talked about writing-related topics a lot, but I think we always fell short of actually advising people and saying useful shit. I think a lot of it was sort of this works for me, that works for him. I think there was stuff to be gleaned from the conversation, hopefully. But writing advice.
No, the real advice was when you had guests.
Yes, there is that. We did have some awesome guests who actually knew what they were talking about. That was
right. Cool. No, that's funny. Joe Burns says gentleman, and I don't know who he's talking about. It's not me. Must be someone on your covers behind you.
People.
So if anyone doesn't know who you are, you want to give a little bit of an introduction, Mike?
Sure. So Michael R. Fletcher. I am a fantasy and kind of science fiction author. I have 3 completed trilogies. Manifest Delusions, which started with Beyond Redemption, which was published by Harper Voyager in 2015. The Obsidian Path trilogy started with Blackstone Heart, which came second in one of the SP FBOs. That's like dark fantasy kind of thing for that series. And The City of Sacrifice, which is all about mad gods and narcotic-based magic. And then I've got some cyberpunk stuff and some fantasy standalones and new things sort of currently in the works. And I think I've got 2 finished books right now that haven't been released yet that I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen with them.
Nice. Wow, I actually got a real introduction from you. I thought you were going to bullshit me.
Super slick. No, I'm a pro at this. Oh my God. I can't believe that you didn't believe in me.
My mistake. I'm so sorry to have,
I am so trustworthy. Come on.
Yeah. I love how you said on Facebook how like all my preparation went to shit. But like, yeah, I gave you my questionnaire and you said, can you list like your titles? And you're like, yes, I can.
Yeah, good. Well, I don't want it.
You tell me like the awards you win. You're like, no, that's no. Anyway. All right. Good evening, Bert. Thanks for being here. Crystal. Somehow I'm also not tired of his face, even though I used to watch him on Words and Words. I'll have to be mindful of that the rest of the night. Good tip, because Crystal is your
giving shit away. That's not cool.
Right? She's your co-host in your new podcast, right?
I know.
So The Dripping Bucket is the name of the new podcast, which I think is the etymology of this name from a freaking tweet or whatever, like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so about actually 5 years ago, over on the wastelands of Facebook, I posted something. I had this idea about this sort of a multi-reality franchise of pubs and taverns called the Dripping Bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And it could exist in any reality, any world. And what it was sort of would change from world to world.
Mm.
But the basic idea was that any writer could use this pub name, the Dripping Bucket. That didn't require permission. You didn't have to ask me. You didn't have to tell me. I have no rights to anything. It's like, do whatever you want with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's yours. And I posted this like as a joke. I thought this would be cool because if enough people did it, readers would start seeing the Dripping Bucket cropping up in all these different fantasy worlds. And eventually someone would go like,
Wait a minute.
Like, wasn't that in a Peter McLean book? Why is that over there? And I just love that idea. And it was a joke, but then it really just kind of took off on its own.
Nice.
And here we are 5 years later. It's in a pile of both traditionally and self-help
dripping buckets everywhere.
Short stories. It is. I don't even know everywhere that it is. And I think that is awesome. Some people still reach out to let me know that they've used it or to ask if they can. And I'm always like, yeah, dude, do whatever you want with it. Nice. If you need it to be a cozy pub in your, heroic fantasy, awesome. If it's a shitty dive in your grimdark novel, cool. Just run with it.
What if Legends and Lattes had actually been called the Dripping Bucket?
That would have been a much better name.
Maybe needed like different cover art and a different tone. Maybe, but that's funny. Did you ever read that one? You probably didn't read that.
No, I haven't. I haven't read that one. I have until I think it was last year, vocally stated that I loathe cozy fantasy. But then as a guest judge for the previous SPFBO, I was with a fantasy book critic as a guest judge.
Yeah.
And I think my two favorite books that year were both cozy fantasies. So I kind of had to eat my own words on that one.
Right. Sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Right? Quinn's The Care and Feeding of British Dragons. Hopefully I'm not screwing the title up. And is Olivia Atwater? Oscar. I hope I'm not screwing that one up too. Miracle. Crap.
Is that the baking one or no?
No, it's chocolate and angels.
Chat, help us out. I know you know chat. Someone knows in chat.
Yeah. I'm gapping out on the title. Anyway, those were my two favorite books of the entire batch. And they were both insanely good. And
is it Small Miracle?
Small Miracles, that is it.
That was and Miss Perky's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British. There we go. Yes, see? I knew you had my back, chat. Thank you.
Actual humans with functioning
well, they just have Google up in another window. That's what it is.
Cheap fuckers.
Yeah, right. Good times. Yeah, listen, I was in the same boat. I was like, Legends and Lattes, like I get it, it seems okay, but like it doesn't seem like my cup of tea. But then I finally I saw so much of it, I was like, I'll give it a try, and like I loved it. But I think it's like, I don't know, something about it really works. But then also in that one, for me, Travis's writing was exceptional. So turns out if you just write a good story, it can be about anything, including like a orc barbarian female starting a coffee shop and make it work.
Yep.
Not Fletcher telling us how he really feels. I mean, kind of a little bit, but no, he liked it. I think I was going to give you a hard time, Fletcher, because I think you're known for your grimdark work, of course. But now I know that you're writing a heroic fantasy with Crystal Matar, and I know you've written, I think, a middle grade fantasy with your daughter, right?
Yep. Yeah. So my daughter.
I think you're getting soft. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. My daughter was. This was a year and a half ago. She was, I think, 11 at the time when I started it. She basically cornered me and was like, "Daddy, write a book for kids my age so I can illustrate it."
Is that wow? Really? Like,
yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And she was like, "And it has to have these things." And so she listed off all her demands, the things that she liked drawing. So I had to write a story based around like the stuff she liked drawing. And then it was kind of way more fun than I was expecting.
So
There
cool.
was something freeing about writing middle grade fantasy,
Uh-huh.
the chance to twist young minds. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to write. So that one is currently off with my agent. Um, just waiting on some feedback from him to see what goes, like if we need to, if it
Yeah,
needs some editing, cleaning up or anything, or if we're sort of good to start shopping it. Yeah.
that's that's so cool. That is one of the main things I want to talk to you about tonight, because I just think like the whole concept is like super fun. There, like a few months ago while you were working on it, I kept seeing on your Instagram you were posting the pictures your daughter was doing, and I was like, this is just so cool, but also sweet. And I have like a little girl too. How old is your daughter, first of all?
So she's 13 now.
She's 13.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yep.
That seems a fun age.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, everything after 5 is great.
See, like, okay, my daughter is, so I have a 10-year-old with ADHD and I have a 2-year-old that's about to turn 3. They actually get along really well because, like, the 10-year-old, well, the 2-year-old thinks that the 10-year-old is the coolest person ever, and the 10-year-old agrees.
Yeah, good basis
But
for a relationship.
right. No, but like, yeah, they're really fun together. But no, I mean, I think that now that she's 2 and she's talking back, I kind of miss some of the even like younger years where like it was the needs when she was only a few months old were very simple. It was like, okay, either a diaper or food or sleep. I can get this covered. Now, like emotional needs. What is that about?
Yeah, it is. It is. Man, it's chaos.
But so that's amazing though. I'm so just enamored with that. Your daughter just was like, "Daddy, write a story for me."
Yeah, it's like stop working on whatever that crappy novel is you're working on,
Right.
and write a middle grade fantasy novel. And like it had to be a whole novel. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I kind
Right.
of wanted to, and I thought it'd
Yeah.
be fun to try.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of of her illustrating it. So
Sure.
we will see what happens. I hope it does something. It would be,
Right. Bo says once they start talking back, they become tiny terrorists. I have literally said to my children before, I don't negotiate with terrorists. Because, like, I mean, they're using.
we totally negotiate with terrorists. We negotiate, we bribe, anything just to get a moment of peace. So she knows it. Like
It's true.
she's
True.
vicious.
It's true. She
And
got a whole novel out of you. She knows how to work daddy.
Yeah. It's only child. Like she knows she's got it. Like,
You're right. So, like, okay, so she comes to you and she says, "Daddy, I want you to write a book." Had she clearly, of course, she knows you're a writer. She wouldn't be able to come to. Has she ever kind of looked at some of your other work, or have you always been like, "No, it's not really for you"?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, when she was younger, I was like, these aren't really written for kids your age.
Sure.
At this point, like if she wants to read them, there are copies all over the house. You can just grab one, and that's fine.
Right.
With that. She's not super interested, I think, in reading my stuff, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's weird, but she does love fantasy. So fantasy sort of for her, it starts and ends with Wings of Fire.
Okay.
And so initially, when she first started talking about me writing a book for her, she wanted me to write a Wings of Fire novel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm actually not allowed to do that. That's illegal. Also, I can't sell it if I do that.
Right. Well, yeah. You could do it as fan fiction, but it would be just for her,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Then who wants to spend the time writing a book just for one person?
A novel's a lot of work.
It's a lot
one kid who's going to be like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. I mentioned Travis Baldry before, Legends and Lattes, but I talked to him in an interview. He does a lot of audiobooks. He used to make video games, and he has children. And I'm like, so are your children like? I mean, do they think any of the stuff Daddy has done is cool? And they're like, no, nothing he's done is cool, which blows my mind. Like, I mean, my dad had a very different job, but I thought it was pretty cool. But whatever. I guess every kid's different, of course. I can't imagine, not thinking whatever.
Daddy is not cool.
Yeah, I guess Daddy's just never cool, unfortunately. Yeah. So she wants you to write this book. What was like? Did she help with kind of any of the plot or anything, or was it just like here are
So not
pictures and here are some of the characters? You know.
Yeah, not so much like plot stuff. She helped with some of the world building. So
Hmm.
she came to me with characters and with like her initial sketches of the characters
Hmm.
that she wanted in the story. She named some of them. I named some of them. One of the things she came up with, she brought me this alien character
Hmm.
who she named Elixir. And it's sort of this bipedal alien, but its limbs are all detached. Like its arms kind of float near its body and its legs are detached. And basically,
Okay.
anywhere there's a joint, there's just a space because she liked visually how that looked. And she's like, work her into the story. Like, all right,
Sure,
okay,
sure.
why not?
Really,
So
really.
yeah. So Elixir, that sketch became a character, and she's in there.
Nice, nice. So she didn't really influence the plot per se, but some of the characters were. That's fun. That's fun. Is she happy with how it's? Has she read the whole thing? I assume. Yeah.
I don't think she has. She gets evasive when I ask about it.
Oh no.
She started demanding art briefs where I just like describe a character, like write out a paragraph description of like a character or a scene that I think she should do, which to
Uh-huh.
me suggests like she hasn't read it, which is
Ah.
hilarious because she demanded I write this damn thing.
Yeah.
Kids, though, right?
Right. How do you haven't told that to your agent yet, have you?
No, no. Enough of other kids have read it, and
Okay,
like
okay, okay.
feedback I've got from these other kids has been amazing. Like one kid said it was better than Wings of Fire, that's crazy, dog.
Yes.
And like I've heard from the parents of a couple of kids, like they've never seen their kid plow through a book that fast.
Nice.
So good feedback. We'll see what happens. It's kind of the same with every novel. You get all this amazing feedback. You send it to your agent. He shops it. Publishers are like, and then you self-publish it.
Well, you've got at least one fan here. Bert says, "Can't wait to buy it first, girls." There you go. There you go.
Cool.
This is a good time. I want to talk more about kind of the agent and publishing. We'll get back to the book, but briefly, I'm doing a giveaway. So I have a fan that supports me in my little endeavor in trying to shine a light on authors through this YouTube channel and everything. And they said that they wanted to help out in any way they could. So they're sponsoring a giveaway. So I've got a little form that I'm going to put in the chat here. Very, very simple form, literally just asking for email at this point. But if you're within the first 10 entrants, I'll give you double entries into the contest. On Friday, I'm going to pick one person randomly. And if you win, we'll send you a free copy of Beyond Redemption, which is one of Fletcher's most popular books and the first in the series. So good entry point.
Yeah, don't send them book 3.
That would not make sense.
Although actually, business-wise, for me, that would be much better. Here's book 3. You're gonna have to go buy book 1 and 2 yourself. That's good. Send a book 3 instead. I changed my mind.
Smart.
Business skills.
There you go. So you started, I let you do your own introduction. You did better than I was expecting, so I didn't have to get into my introduction. But you have quite a little bit of a bio on your website where you're talking about dev and copywriting, where you wrote your first book in 2008 while your soon-to-be wife planned your wedding, but she seems to have forgiven you, which is amazing. I don't know how you you must have hypnosis or something. After dozens of rewrites and revisions, that book became 88, which was published in 2013 by Fiverr, Small Canadian. I think 88 got a new title at one point?
Yeah, so 88 later became Ghosts of Tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, the rights were reverted to me and I self-published it.
Which, by the way, has a freaking cool cover.
Yeah, that is Anthony DiGiovanni. He's actually famous now, like way more famous than I am, which is hilarious. So that was the first book cover he ever did.
Oh wow, really? Nice.
And I was looking for an artist to do a book cover, and my wife was like, "Oh, brother's wife's nephew is an artist. And I was like, fine. I'll look at his stuff. And so he had like he had some stuff he'd done, and it was really good. So I hired him to do Ghosts of Tomorrow, and then his career just took off. Doing like huge covers. He does concept stuff for Hollywood movies. Like
oh wow,
he worked on the Barbie movie, stuff like that. Like he's just
dang.
Whole different level. Did he
Nice.
bring me with him? No. Where's my fam, Anthony? Come on, damn it.
I can't listen. I'm gonna be honest. I can't imagine you writing a freaking word of the Barbie movie. Right?
Yeah, willing to try, but no.
If they had been like, I want you to write I'm Kenough, you know? I don't think you would have written that song. I don't think it would have had the same.
Although I do have a daughter, and I have seen that Barbie cartoon a bajillion times. So I think I got some Barbie in there.
There you go. Yeah. All right. See, I'm right. You're turning soft. I think your daughter's turning you soft. I think.
Yeah, Hollywood seriously needs to hire me to write the next Barbie movie.
Let's start it. Come on, tweet it out. Come on, everyone in chat. Let's get this going. Let's get the retweets. Let's make it happen. Let's get some attention. Let's start a change.org petition. Okay, so yeah, your first book was published by a small Canadian publisher and whatnot. But these days you're pretty well, I mean, with the exception of the middle grade, everything else is pretty much all straight self-published, right?
Yep. So Beyond Redemption, that was published by Harper Voyager. So big trad publishing thing there. They passed on the sequel because the sales for book one weren't enough to warrant investing in a sequel. Since I'd already written it, I was like, fuck it, I might as well self-publish it. So I had to learn how to do all that. At the time, I'd also, and I just lost my mind, I'd written another standalone novel in the Manifest Illusions world, which later, so that landed with a Skyhorse. I don't know, what are they, mid-level publisher, I guess? I don't know. And they changed the title to Swarm and Steel, which is a fucking awful title. And then, so after that, everything I wrote after that has been self-published. That said, I do have an agent who shops my books. So what I do is I send him a book. He gets basically a year to a year and a half to shop it to publishers. If no one's interested, then I self-publish it.
Interesting. Yeah. No.
And that includes like Blackstone Heart, which has gone on to do, decently well.
Seems like it's working out for you. Yeah.
Right. I can't really complain.
Very nice.
I mean, I can.
Yeah, but no one's going to pay attention anyway. No. And Spiffbo finalist 2 consecutive years. Was it you're the only one to do that, or one of the only ones?
I'm not the only person to be a finalist twice, but I think I'm the only finalist 2 years in a row.
Look at you.
I know.
And
also the right people to get.
Is that it? Oh man, yeah, Mark Lawrence. I'm gonna give you foot massages.
Mark in my pocket, yo.
Yeah. Smart. I think you're like all this business genius just ripping from you like a bucket.
Yeah. This is a writing advice podcast right here.
Write with your daughter. Write what your daughter wants, and then get Mark Lawrence in your back pocket, and everything's gonna work out. Makes sense. It really does. So, and you've also you just did you just write something for Grimdark magazine or?
So 2 things recently. So I wrote a short story called The Last War Dog, which is in Grimdark 37. And then Anna Smith Spark and I wrote a Grimdark novella called In the Shadow of Their Dying, which is currently on pre-order and will be released March 19th. And it is dark as fuck and utterly insane. I mean, it's Anna Smith Spark, so at least half of it's going to be really well written.
Nice. Well, that's a perfect segue into another question. So you've written with Anna Smith Spark, you've written with Crystal Matar, you've written with your daughter, you've done podcast with Jed and Dirk and Rob, and
also
podcast
co-wrote 2 novels with Clayton Snyder.
Co-wrote 2 novels with Clayton Snyder.
Yep.
Podcast with Crystal Matar now. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you like collaborating sometimes, right?
Yep.
How does writing a book work? I've never tried that sort of thing. So if you're going to advise someone on writing a book with a co-author, what would your advice be? Let's assume that they're not your daughter, because I think then the advice is just do whatever they ask, because
yeah. All right. So the big one is write with somebody who's better than you are.
Smart. Again, just dropping all the knowledge. Yeah.
Knowledge bombs. Yeah. You have to set rules before you start. And those rules are going to change depending on the situation, depending on who you're writing with. Mm-hmm. Working with Anna is completely different from working with like Clayton or Crystal. Mm-hmm. With Anna, I mean, part of what happened there is we started writing that just before COVID landed. And so the world kind of went to shit, and there was a lot of other stuff going on that got dragged out, took way longer than it should have.
As many projects that started at that time did, I think.
We were dealing with stuff. Yeah. With Clayton, it was a much more focused thing, and very similar with Crystal. We basically started with a small set of rules, let's say. 1, no stress. This is purely for fun. So there were no deadlines. The book would be done whenever it was done. If you decided you didn't want to do it anymore, all you had to say was, I don't want to do this anymore. You bail, and it's like, no hard feelings. Fine. And that was really sort of like the basis for the relationship, the co-authoring relationship was no stress, no deadlines. The funny thing is, once we got rolling, I think we knocked off the first draft in about 2 months, which is fast.
Is it you and Clayton?
Yeah, me and Clayton.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it's really nice having somebody write half your book for you. It's great.
So like that is I love the idea of the rules. That makes ton of sense. From kind of a nuts and bolts of it, so you guys like I think that the 2 guys that write The Expanse, they like alternate chapters, I think. Is that sort of,
I don't know how they do it. So the way Clayton and I handled it, so we sort of sketched out very, very roughly what the story was going to be. We knew there were going to be 2 point of view characters. And so I took one character. I wrote all of her story. Clayton took the other character. He wrote all of that guy's story. And it worked really well because it gives you this sort of, each character really has their own voice, and it's really strong. And then what we did is Clayton edited my chapters and I edited his. And that kind of gelled the 2 writing styles so that it read smooth. Like, a lot of people were like, I can't tell who wrote what.
That's really smart.
But you've got these 2 characters still with, distinct voices. So that was how we handled that.
That's really clever. That's, wow. So, all right, you've done all these kind of collaborative projects, the podcast, 2 podcasts, bunch of books, bunch of stories. But of course, you've also done lots of stuff yourself in terms of mini stories you've written, whatnot. If somehow some genie came by and was like, all right, Mike, sorry, you can either no longer collaborate anymore, you have to only do projects yourself, or you can never write a book yourself anymore, but you can do all the collaborations you want. Which one of these totally ridiculous hypotheticals would you take?
Yeah, I would see.
Besides the obvious of just tell the genie to go piss off.
Yeah, I'd write alone. I love doing collaborations, but it's kind of like being in a rock band. The weakest part is you have to rely on other people,
Mhm.
and they have to rely on you. Whereas when you're writing by yourself, you really only have one person to blame, one person to point the finger at, and that
Mhm.
makes it kind of easier to sort of get your ass moving.
Mhm.
It's like, I would like to buy groceries. I should probably be busy.
Right. I want to keep feeding my daughter.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. For a while, I was pursuing video game development, which these days, like a AAA game, is hundreds of people and millions of dollar budget, and it's an insanely huge process. And one of the things that's really nice about writing a book is one person can do it.
yep,
One person.
yeah. I love it. I am basically a control freak. I can box that up for a little while with the collaborations, but it's always clawing,
It's
trying to
not
get
always.
out. It always wants to be like, no, that's not how you write that. I'm going to write that for you. It's like, no, shut the fuck up. That's not how this works.
Okay.
So I am,
Let
I kind of mostly have to write my own shit.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, that's not. That's right. That's funny. How so? Okay, I can't wait for the heroic fantasy story. I was listening to that episode of Dripping
Here.
Bucket just today, where you guys were kind of talking about it. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about the upcoming heroic fantasy story that you guys are writing? I'll tell you the tattoo idea and was really interesting.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
So we, Crystal and I mean, we share a love of David Gemmell. And I've never, or previously hadn't written any heroic fantasy, and loved the idea of doing something Gemmell-esque. And Crystal really wanted to as well. So we sort of, we agreed to try this co-write thing. We sketched out some basic world building stuff. We have a magic system, a tattoo based magic system, where what the tattoos do is they manipulate emotions.
Mhm.
So it's really limited in a way. And we sort of found this psychology based wheel of emotions where they get grouped into, I can't remember, however many different sort of classifications of emotions, like the four basic types of emotion, and
Mhm.
how they sort of interplay with each other, and like the opposites and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so we decided there were these sort of two empires clashing. One, which so all the soldiers are tattooed, and the one
Mhm.
empire, they tattoo their soldiers with what are typically referred to as like good emotions, love, loyalty, flavors of that. So that's what sort of binds the army together, binds squads together. It makes them fight together. The other empire uses what we typically think of as negative emotions. Fear. It's fear of letting down your emperor, fear of not living up to the expectations of your squad or your fellow soldiers. And so it's this sort of this play between the two sort of types of emotions. And I think there's a lot there we can sort of we can poke at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. I love that concept. I literally was going out to lunch with my wife today and was talking about how I find it very interesting. She had a very long study session for a college class with a colleague, and she's like, "Had it not been for them, I wouldn't have spent that much time." And I said, "Like, it's so interesting in like kind of human dynamics, the way we push ourselves more when there's someone else there along with us. That sort of we feel like we'd be disappointing them, like
Mhm.
but but not necessarily in a fearful way. I think when it's hopefully for us, it's more of that sort of positive loyalty way. But you see that in some like super high level training, they try to put people in teams and then you really get a sense of, if you quit, you'll be letting down your team, and so you want to really push together.
Yeah.
Fascinating that exists, and I think that's super cool that I love the dynamic of the two sides of the emotional coin too. That's going to
Yeah,
be.
I always look for like a hook in any magic system.
Mm,
It's something it's always in some way based on reality. Um,
mhm,
and to me, like, I love what they call hard magic systems. I like
mhm, mhm,
defined systems with limitations. And the cost of magic is really important to me. Like free magic where it's I cast fireball and it's like whatever, it doesn't really cost me anything. It's like it's
Yeah,
for me. I don't know if some people love soft magic systems. Totally
sure.
cool, totally get it. I have no problem with that. It's just not what I like to write. It's not what kind of scratches at my obsessions.
Speaking of costs, I'm going to quickly shout out Caden Love, another author. He has this debut book, the Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard, but his magic system is that there's like just 5 years ago magic came into the world, but in order to use it you have to like harvest the intestines, the third intestine that grows inside children. So they're literally like they're harvesting an organ from infants in order to do this magic. And like the book
Cozy
opens
fantasy
with
then.
yeah, right there with Legends and Lattes. Yeah, the book opens with like that kind of surgical scene, and the guy's just kind of horrified by what he's sort of having to do. Like harsh, but super interesting concept. And I love the fact too that the magic is really early into the world, so they're sort of just dealing with like very interesting. But definitely, yeah, I mean that sort of like hard cost to the magic really propels the whole story. I like that. So very interesting, good stuff. I like what you said about collaboration's awesome, but sometimes doing it is the most valuable and the thing that you can kind of rely on the most, because then you only need to kick your own butt.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about like your editing a little bit more. You started doing editing, but that's pretty recent. I guess you kind of needed some people to push you into doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, economics kind of. So, and I want to be clear, there are different kinds of editing, right? There
Sure.
there are editing services I do not offer. Like if you're looking for someone to catch your typos, I am not that guy. Like I don't have that level of attention to, that kind of detail.
Sure.
The services I'm offering are more like helping people get over whatever hurdle is sort of between them and writing a sort of a more readable book, something more sellable. And it's often something like simple. Like once you understand it, once you've seen it, you go, oh, it's that's what I did wrong. And so what I've been doing a lot of is people will send me like the first 10,000 words. And I'll do sort of a rough edit where I just sort of pick apart their prose a bit, make some suggestions. But mostly what I end up focusing on is how they handle their point of view characters, how they handle tense, how they do their scene setting. Because nailing POV correctly is magic. If you do that, the reader is going to get sucked into your story, and that is kind of what separates like, oh, that was a entertaining book from that book that you're thinking about for a long time afterwards. That book where you're like, I fucking hated that character, but I was so there. Like that sucked me in. He's a shitty human and I was on his side. Like how'd that happen? Like that's the magic, right? So
Right.
that's mostly what I'm trying to do is sort of help people nail the like the POV stuff, scene setting. New writers have a tendency to sort of like launch into the book and they're like, oh, you're in a forest and he's running away from something. And then it's a bunch of talking heads and, a line of action here. And I know the writer sees it all in their head, but they're just not getting it down. They're not putting it on the paper.
Yeah.
And there's a trick to that. You'll be like 3 chapters in the first time you hear the main character's name. You're like, okay, no, that's got to happen way earlier, or like they'll launch into a chapter and you're like 10 paragraphs in before you understand who the point of view character is, if there even is one, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's more about storytelling mechanics than, correcting somebody's, typos.
Right. Yeah. More developmental editing rather than proofreading. Right.
Exactly.
I do feel a little called out because it's not until chapter 2 my main character's name is revealed, but but that's only like it's only like 2,500 words into it, so maybe that's I don't know, maybe.
Like if you're doing it for a reason, totally fine. Like
Yeah.
with everything, if you have a reason and that reason matters to the story and it will have an impact, then it's like cool, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If you're just kind of forgot, it's like no, go back and fix that.
No, I didn't. Yeah, it was intentional. Well, it remains to be seen if it works, but that's a long way from here. But I totally get what you're saying too. I've been doing an in-person writing group for 2 years, which has been fantastic. But there have been we've definitely become a critique group, and there have been times where I'm reading something and I'm like, this doesn't really make sense, and then they're like, well, it's this and this and this, and this. I'm like, that all sounds awesome. Half of that's not on the page, like whoops. Right? Yeah. But it's so helpful when you can have someone else see those things.
So much easier to do it for someone else's book.
Yeah.
You sit down, you read your own book, and you sort of you become blind to your words because you know what you meant to say. Yes. So you'll just rip through it and you're like, yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing. Then somebody's like, are they in a room? Like, what the fuck's going on there?
Right.
And then you have to go back and say, okay, start.
Yeah, no, it's not a room. They're on a ship, you idiot. Oh, is that what?
I never actually said the word ship.
Dang, yeah. That's funny. All right, so as we're talking about editing, on Instagram, The Secrets of Silver Clouds asked tips to avoid over-editing in the final draft stages. So I know that you're not really necessarily doing final draft with your editing clients, but you've done it plenty of times as an author. So any tips there?
Okay, so here's how I work. Take from it whatever you want. First draft, no one gets to see it. Mm-hmm. I will do an editing pass where I look at initially any comments I left for myself, because I like to plow through a first draft. And I'll leave comments like, come back, fix this later, more scene building here, kind of stuff. So my first editing pass is going through all of the comments and dealing with anything I need to deal with. My second editing pass will be now that I know how the book ends and now that I've dealt with all the comment crap, it'll be kind of looking for opportunities for a little foreshadowing, tweaking some of the stuff that happened earlier so that it better sort of clicks with the ending. My third editing pass, I will actually have Word read the book aloud to me as I read along. I find that's amazing for catching like typos, misspelled names, all that kind of stuff. And then, so after 3 editing passes, I tell people, this is a first draft, so be kind. And then they get my third draft. Personally, I don't like to use too many beta readers because you'll just get too many conflicting ideas. Everyone brings their own experiences to a book, right? So no 2 people are even reading the same book, kind of.
Yeah. How many is too many to you, though?
If I have
like 2
one amazing reader,
okay,
and 2 or 3 who are good at, like, this part got boring. I didn't understand the ending, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Gold. Like, I have released books with only a single beta reader, but typically for most of them, there's like 3 or 4. And then, so Carrie, who's sort of my first reader, she usually gets the books first. She will often end up reading a book like 2 to 4 times, depending on how many revisions I end up going through.
Wow.
But I mean, that's me. That's kind of the way I like to work. But really, no one sees the book until I've reached a point where I'm like, I don't know what else I can do to make this better. And that's when I, send it to readers. And it really, like, one really good reader is better than 20 people who are just kind of babbling at you.
So I think in broad strokes, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. But I am curious, like, you kind of said like other readers that are sort of like, oh, this part doesn't really make sense. What kind of feedback are you getting from that really good reader? What are they providing for you?
Sometimes it'll be like sentence level stuff where she will pick out something where I've sort of fallen out of character. She'll be like, really? Would he say that? And the number of times I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, that doesn't really fit. Because, when you're writing, you're all in your head and you
right.
Sometimes it's just like, this part should be huge. There should be this huge, epic, climactic moment here. But instead, you just dealt with it with a single sentence and moved on.
That's probably a part where like
go
in that
and write that fucking scene because it's going to be huge.
In that first draft, you wrote like epic shit here as a comment,
yeah.
And then later you go by and you're like, okay, done.
Yeah, whatever. 2 sentences. They're epic sentences. It's fine. Yeah, so stuff like that. She's good at catching that. Endings can be tricky. Most of my books, I think I end up rewriting the ending 2 to 4 times before I'm sort of like really happy with it. And the funny thing is, it doesn't mean anyone else is going to be happy with it. Some readers, of course, fucking hate it. Okay, but it made me happy, so they go fuck themselves.
Right. What do you think of the idea too of having like a either like an ideal reader or a target reader? Like sort of the person that you're like writing the book for, which clearly is yourself. But
so I had one. Rich is his name. He's a buddy from grade 9, like 1,000 years ago. And so the first bunch of books I wrote, I was always kind of writing for Rich because he's like, we kind of started role playing together. We got into fantasy together and stuff. And so he was, for the longest time, he was my sort of like first and only test reader. And then the fucker went and got married and had kids and a life and got a job. And now he doesn't have time for, reading all my books. So then I had to, find other people.
Word. Well, I've started to have in mind similar. My cousin is like my target reader. And I'm like, I want the book that I'm writing to be like, if I can make it my cousin's favorite book, then I've nailed what I'm trying to do, I think that's
I
actually
like the
helpful.
idea. And I like, it was great because, if Rich was like, fuck, that was so cool. And I was like, yes, did it. And if he was like, then I knew I'd missed the mark somewhere.
Yeah. But, so Fantasy Book Critic asks, when does Dirk Ashton come into the writing process? And I'm pretty sure he's always there because you're actually Dirk Ashton in a Fletcher suit, right?
Yes. Yeah. There is no Dirk Ashton. He's a myth.
He's a myth. Okay. I thought Fletcher was the myth and it's Dirk Ashton. Like,
one of them's a myth, one of them's real. Somebody's locked up in a cage in a basement. Not entirely sure. Oh shit. No, it might be me. Funny. Never mind.
Do the Wizards, Warriors, and Words guy, are they part of your like beta readers or not so much?
So they're all writers, and writers make really, really great beta readers, except for the fact that they're writers and they don't have time to beta read your crazy books because they're writing their own books. So it's like, oh, would you beta read my book? And they're like, yeah, but no, I'm writing.
Also, I find it interesting to see that you said you jammed through like your first draft, because as I remember one of the like later episodes of Wizards, Warriors, and Words, you were saying that you were kind of experimenting with writing by hand again.
So I've done 3 or 4 novels by hand, like pen and paper in a binder, and the rest on the computer. I love writing by hand. There is something different about it. It triggers a different part of my brain a little bit. But I hate transcribing my handwritten, like an unreadable gibberish onto the computer, it takes forever. So it
Yeah.
almost doubles how long. Also, I can't type for shit. It drags out the whole like writing process too long for me. So for the most part, I'm sticking with computer.
Wait, so by hand is really slow, but you also can't type for shit? How are you a writer?
No. So I can my first draft writing by hand is really fast because I can write way faster than I can type.
Oh,
I can't necessarily read what I wrote.
ah,
That slows things down, and then
I
it's the
see.
transcribing to the computer.
Yeah,
That just
yeah.
adds even more time.
Have you seen that Rob J. Hazy just wrote a novella? I keep seeing it on Twitter. He wrote a novella on his remarkable tablet, so he was doing it by hand, but it would like automatically turn it into like typed stuff.
I keep thinking about getting one of those. I wonder if it could read
Your
Fletcher.
chicken scratch?
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. I write like a doctor, you know?
yeah. I need to like borrow one for a week to see if it'll work before I buy it. I don't want to lay out
Right.
that kind of cash for something that's like I don't know what that is.
Right.
Is that a P, an R, 3 M's in a
Yeah.
row? Like what the fuck? Is that even a
Where's
word?
right. Someone needs to invent like a Gizmo library where we can borrow these things for a bit. Like, but I did have a friend that had a free write traveler. Have you seen the free write devices? It's like a keyboard with a tiny e-ink
Yeah,
scheme.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an old digital typewriter
Right. And
back in the day.
I was amazed how much I liked it though. It was a way better experience than I thought it would be, but it was also a lot of money.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what I did, I've got a really shitty $200 laptop.
Yeah.
I stripped everything off it except for Word and an internet connection. Like there's no browser or anything. So I get away from my office down here and I go to the dining room table and I do most of my writing up there. No internet, no like browser, no social media. So much easier to get shit done.
Smart. Yeah. I was, sometimes I like going to a coffee shop because if I'm at a coffee shop with my laptop, I don't feel like I can just get on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Reddit and then Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and just feel But when I'm at home, fuck it, I'm gonna Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Word. Turns out writing's hard, but it's fun. It's hard, but let's talk a little bit about podcasts too. So how did you decide to do the dripping bucket? Were you like just jonesing for another podcast fix, but you're like, man, you know what? Doing it with people all over the freaking world was actually a pain in the butt.
Yeah, very much. I sort of missed the just chatting with people.
Yeah.
Both like my fellow hosts and the guests. I don't live near anyone. And I basically spend the day in the house, either in the basement or at the dining room table, banging away at crazy words.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I kind of felt the urge to try it again. Had talked with Crystal about it. We talked about it for, I don't know, 6 months or something before we finally went, all right, let's do it. Yeah. Just for fun.
Yeah.
You got to do something other than write. And I think I think it helps just talking with other people.
Right. Keeps us sane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not at all a full-time writer, but I do work from home. So I totally understand how that can drive you absolutely batty sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Let me while we're here, I'm gonna mention again the giveaway. I'm gonna post this link. Doing a giveaway of Beyond Redemption. You just give me your email and I'm gonna pick a winner. So if you're here, click that link that I dropped in the chat and just give me your email and we'll send you a paperback copy of Beyond Redemption if you're the winner. So that's pretty cool. And then you could go buy the other 2 books of Flight. I'll give you the number 1, but then you should go buy the other 2 books in the series.
Yeah. You're assuming you like it.
Yeah.
And if you do like it, you're probably not sane. So what the heck?
I don't know if you're really good at this marketing thing, Fletcher.
Yeah, probably not.
That's funny.
Apparently, it's not a prerequisite for doing it. So
right, no, not at all. So Dripping Bucket, how many episodes have you guys done so far?
I don't know. I have no idea. Apparently, I was talking with Crystal earlier today. We have enough episodes recorded that if we continue dropping one a week, we're good till I think she said the end of May.
Okay. All
So
right.
we got a bunch. We've got more guests scheduled. We've got Anna Smith Spark coming on, I think next week, I want to say.
Cool.
Rob Hayes actually coming on.
Hey, I know that guy.
Adrian, the godfather of Grimdark from Grimdark magazine, Adrian Collins, the madman behind that. He's coming on for a chat, and a bunch of other people we're talking to. So yeah, we've been thinking about maybe going to 2 episodes a week. We'll see what happens.
Nice.
We don't know if that'll be too much effort.
Right. Well, your episodes are like you're right around the 20-minute mark.
Yeah,
too,
we keep them short. The goal is 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah. That feels to me doable, but who knows, your process. That's nice. Yeah, that's cool. So do you have, so far you guys have you talked a little bit about working together and that sort of thing. You talked with Clayton Snyder. Is like, what would be like, what's do you have like a dream episode or a dream guest that you'd be like, man, it'd be so great to either talk about this or talk to this person?
What I'd really like to do, I want to get an agent on to talk about how the sort
industry?
of publishing landscape has changed, how it is changing. I'd like to have a really honest conversation for that. The other writers out there can sort of get a better feel for what's going on. I think there's still a lot of myths, misconceptions.
Sure.
Or for if you're a Robert Aspirin fan, myths and misconceptions. I know, fine, whatever. Sorry, brain just. I think there's a lot of stuff that people are wrong about, like how traditional publishing works, and just how agents work and all that stuff. I think that would be really cool to have someone on. I've got a couple of people I'm talking to.
Nice.
So see if I can make it happen.
That seems cool. Yeah, I think that would be neat. I think that, especially like very new writers.
Yeah,
I know some.
Is there anyone you would like us to have on?
I would like you to have. I think I have you talked to anyone that's like a debut or has recently debuted?
We have not. Everyone we've talked to so far has multiple books out.
Or have you talked to anyone that's so like I've been seeing some people that are debuting recently and they're debuting with a Kickstarter, which I think is really fascinating actually, because the advice that I've
do that.
I don't know.
Why would anyone fund you? They're like, can you even write a book? You're like, yes, crayon.
So that one I think would be kind of interesting because so Caden Love, I mentioned earlier, did the Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard, and he rose like a couple $1,000 with his Kickstarter before, and that was the release of his first book.
Yeah.
There's another woman right now hers just launched today, Amber Toro. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name, but she seems lovely on Twitter. I actually backed her thing because she seems cool and her book sounds interesting. Sentient Stars alone is enough to get me interested. But this is her debut and she's debuting with a Kickstarter. And like from the advice that I have heard from people like Robin Sullivan, who I know you spoke to also with her advice was don't even start marketing a book at all until you have 3 books out, because you're not going to make enough money on one book, Yeah. And then the Kickstarter also was you need to have some audience to kind of back it. But I don't know, maybe like Kickstarter is kind of at the point now where Robin has said that like it's almost another publishing platform kind of, there are readers that are finding books just on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it, but also I know like that Amber woman that just launched today, she's definitely been kind of active mixing it up on Twitter, that sort of thing. Caden was kind of doing the same, and he had won the indie, I think it's called the Indie Fantasy Fund by Bookborn and Zach Argyle.
Oh, yeah.
So he was kind of a little, you know what I mean? Like I guess they're getting to be known a little bit before they're doing these, but I think that would be an interesting thing to talk to.
Yeah, that's weird. I cannot imagine doing that. I think I wrote 2 books before I was on Twitter. And that was only because my agent at the time was like, you kind of need a social media presence. Like,
But I mean, that was, you wrote your first book in 2008, right?
yeah. So yeah, this would have been 2014, I want to say. I think just after the Gun Redemption contract was signed. That's me scrambling on social media to try and, pretend to be human.
That's a while ago. And I feel like that's kind of sort of at it, like that time period to me, and you may feel differently about it, but like was a little bit of a turning point where like indie was starting to really be viable with Kindle. But then like I think with that, sort of the accessibility of authors really increased, right?
Yeah.
Because I think previous to that, I just feel like authors weren't so accessible. Like the only time
I miss the days. Like when I was a kid, authors were these like unknowable, unapproachable gods.
Right.
I want that.
Worship me.
Yeah. Right, this talking to people, being on social media.
All right. I would love to keep talking with you, but I do want to be respectful of your time. We're at an hour. What do you feel?
I'm good. If you want to go a bit longer, I'm cool with that. If you want to cut it, I'm cool with that too.
Let's talk. All right. So, Brandon, have you heard of this guy called Brandon Sanderson?
Yeah, vaguely. I think he wrote a book or two.
Yeah. He just did a new secret project. I actually haven't checked today, but yesterday he had already raised like $12.5 million within hours of launching the thing. So when you're thinking about like, talking with an agent and talking about things have changed, like, do you think some about like that sort of thing and the way that he also apparently, I don't know if you saw this news, he like Audible came to him and said, hey, like we know that you were pushing on us for better terms. So we want to do these better terms. Did you hear that news?
I have heard mumblings about that. I don't know any details.
Yeah, the gist of what the way Sanderson presented it is like this. They came to him and they said, like, this is what we're planning. We're not rolling it out yet, but this is what we're planning, and it's going to be better rates.
To stop pillaging authors. Oh, that's so sweet of them.
Yeah. But I mean, agreed. But if it happens that way, like, man, that's pretty awesome and good of Brandon to do that. Brandon, would shot me like that.
Be dog, yeah.
Yeah, be money. Yeah. So like, yeah, when you're thinking about talking with an agent and talking about the industry, like, and talking about industry changes, what do you think of like kind of, the way that he's selling on Kickstarter these leather-bound editions? Is that something like you've looked at? I mean, clearly there's a market for that sort of thing now. And
yeah, you gotta remember, like, so I mean, Brandon has a team.
Yes,
it's not him doing this.
Sure, but I mean, there's places like that, like Wraithmark exists that did all the fulfillment for this Threadlight omnibus that looks super cool.
Yeah. And again, that's a team of people kind of working together for stuff like that. My team is just one slightly broken human in a basement. So am I going to do like a Kickstarter and mail out thousands of leather-bound copies to people? No. I don't even like mailing out one copy. Like people email me or text me, whatever, saying, hey, can I buy, like signed copies? Like I'll pay shipping, I want all these books. Will you mail them to me? And I'm like, fine. Mostly because I want to get rid of them. So I've got more bookshelf space upstairs. But like it's grudging, which is sad. Like, cause I'm also super happy that people want to buy signed copies. That's amazing. But the fact I have to go to the post office and my local post office is terrible. They're like utterly incompetent. They don't know how to mail something. So it's just, grumpy. So yeah, I Kickstarter is amazing. I think if you have the personality type where you can do that without kind of breaking, I think it's probably really good. Or if you have like people to work with you on that. Right. I think the pressure of doing something like that by myself would crack me. And I'm already kind of like fragile enough as it is without sort of taking on shit like that.
That's funny.
But that's me.
Yeah. Word. Yeah. Well, I get you. And yeah, thinking about doing all the fulfillment. Not that I'm remotely close to that stage in a writing career, but yeah, it seems daunting. But yeah, like,
I think you have to know yourself. You have to understand your limitations.
right.
And there's shit I'm not good at.
But it's amazing that, like I said, there's this company Wraithmark that it's like they're basically like really specialized small publishers just for doing the fulfillment of these Kickstarters. They kind of, I think they do all the negotiation with the printer, but they certainly do all of they handle receiving it from the printer and shipping it out to the customer so that the author never has to do that part.
Yeah.
At most they have to sign either tip-ins or what's the name for the fancy sticker? It's
Book
bookmark,
plates.
book plates. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
bookmarks. That's the other thing. That's not a sticker. Yeah. It's yeah. So, well, what are kind of the trends that you're seeing that you would want to talk about? With the agent
Um,
in this amazing episode.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. It was a quick answer to an unexpected question. Corner me on this.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
Sorry, Bert.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nah, eventually I mail them out. People trick me. They will they will PayPal funds in advance so that I feel guilty and I have to go mail it out. Because I'm usually like, oh no, don't send me money until I actually tell you it's in the mail. And then I never mail anything. And they're like, okay, I put a bunch of money in your PayPal account, send me the book. And it's like,
oh God, I guess I have to now.
Yeah, it's
drag me to the post office.
Anyway, so that was actually a pleasant distraction. Completely forgotten what we were talking about. Moving along now.
Yeah, moving along. That's good. All right. Well, I want to take it back to the beginning. We were talking about Dripping Bucket podcast, but the way that I first became aware of you actually was through Wizards, Warriors, and Words. So let's talk about that podcast a little bit. You guys, how long did you guys do? What, 2 years was it?
Yeah, I think about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? I talked with Jed a little bit, right? And I'm like, Jed, how'd you pull this off, dude? You're kind of like this young guy that you've written like one book at the time, and down in Australia, down in that southern hemisphere, right?
He tricked us.
And you
straight up tricked us.
Right? I said, how did you get him? He's like, oh, deception, blackmail, that's what that's what he said. So is it true? Yep, he tricked you.
Yeah. So he approached me. He said, I've been talking with Rob and Dirk. They're on board. We're, putting together a podcast together. He went to Rob, said, I've been talking with, Dirk and Mike about doing a podcast. Went to Dirk, said, yeah, I talked to Rob and Mike about doing a podcast. And, we were all like, damn, like Rob and Dirk are in? I'm like, I don't know this guy. I've never heard of Jed. Like, I was some weird Australian guy. But these other writers we knew really well were in, so we're like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. And then it was too late and we were in.
You're like, wait, you didn't know either? Oh, Jed.
Then it turned out to be a lot of fun.
Right. No, I loved the show because it always, you guys were bantering so much, and it just felt like, as an audience member, we were just sort of in on it.
Yeah,
it was good times. I think you guys had
I think there was a nice chemistry there.
Yes.
Jed with his youthful optimism, the rest of us with no, life is hell.
Yeah. He was what is it, noble bright or heroic? And you guys brought in your Grimdark.
He was like 12 years old when we first started. So
yeah, and he's only 13 now.
Yeah,
and not Australians are duplicitous. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jed was though. Jed was.
It totally was. We never did learn what Jed was short for.
Is it actually short for something? I assumed it was a actual.
No, Jedediah, maybe. I don't know. I asked him, and he pretended like it wasn't short for anything. I'm not buying that.
But we could track him down. Maybe we can find it. We need an inside man in Australia. Is that you, Charlie Cavendish? Are you Australian? Maybe you can be our inside man. What was What stands out to you? I mean, obviously you guys had a lot of episodes. You had a good time. You guys had a good chemistry. But is there any like episodes that sort of stand out to you as like being especially fun to do? Like I know for Jed, like I asked him that question and he was like, well, talking to Joe Abercrombie, and I was like, yeah, we could tell. We could, right?
Jed was all about the guests, and like if we got one of his favorite authors on, he was super happy.
He was good.
That was cool. Like we had most of my favorite authors on, like sort of current authors. Adrian Tchaikovsky, like the Children of Time books are insane. Like they're so good. But honestly, my favorite episodes were the ones that I commandeered. We called them chaos episodes because I wouldn't tell anyone what we're talking about. And I'd basically just launch a conversation about whatever was on my mind at the time. Nice. And then we'd spend however long just kind of bouncing around talking about that idea. And sometimes it was like, how do you deal with burnout? Writing and depression. It was just whatever I was sort of fixated on at the time. Those were a lot of fun. And they were just conversations.
Yeah, but nice, lighthearted, easy topics, right? Writing with burnout, depression. Easy stuff.
Usual stuff. But I mean, I think these are topics worth talking about.
Yes, no, you're right.
If you're doing this for long enough, you're gonna hit that wall.
Yeah.
You start editing, like I make a lot of mistakes. And so I love writing. Editing a little bit less so. So a couple of times I've ended up with like 3 finished books, which haven't been edited yet. And then I end up editing 3 books in a row. And that means I might be editing for like 6 months or more. Like not writing new words at all, just stuck in editing detail hell. And by the end of that, I'm just broken.
Yeah. So maybe don't do that again, Yeah.
I'm going to. Just reality plots against me. Like I already know it's going to happen again because I've got a book out with test readers. I got a book with my agent. And then just today I started writing this new thing. I know I'm going to end up with 2 books that need editing. And what can you do?
Yeah. I don't know. Coerce your daughter into doing the edits, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, her spelling's atrocious.
That's not gonna work. All right. No. Yeah. So, I've talked with some other authors that have like dealt with some depression also. Writing is wonderful, but I do wonder if sometimes like kind of the solitary nature of the work and kind of being so stuck in our minds sometimes can lead to these negative places at times. Maybe there's but I think there's definitely some correlation. I hope that there's not causation.
I suspect there's a certain type of person who tends to be drawn towards writing. And that's not to say it's true of all writers, because it's definitely not. I know writers who are basically happy all the fucking time, who just love what they do. And they're like, fuck, this is so much fun, that's awesome. Like I would love to be that guy. But I think for a lot of us, we're sort of we're escaping into our mad little worlds. And if we can drag a couple of other souls in with us, then we're pretty happy about
it. Right. Yeah. That's interesting, but it's good to kind of taking it back to you were talking about what's good about the podcast is you get out and talk with other people. I mean, I think that's so important, right? You gotta have that too, right?
Yep. Yeah, one of the best things, I mean, if you're going to be a writer with any duration whatsoever, you really need to find a group of people who you can relate to, and with whom you can talk about this stuff.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it, sounding board, writers group, just friends, but people who can relate to what you're going through, people who are having the same problems, people who are like, 1 year into, waiting on queries to agents and still like, like that kind of stuff. Like it's not normal. So you can't kind of go with normal people for that stuff.
That's such a good point. Because having other people that are going through the same stuff, and I think that's the best advice I've had, and the best thing that I've been able to get is finding other people too that are in like a similar stage, and really kind of latching on with those people that you get along with that are in a similar stage in their writing career.
Yep, and it's got to be sort of a judgment-free kind of thing, kind of space.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's face it, you're gonna crack at some point and go on a mad rant about whatever, and you need people who are going to be like, he's just blowing off steam. Like he'll come down and have a Snickers and be sane again in a little bit.
You need a Snickers. You're Danny DeVito.
But then you got to be there for them too when they're when they're tiptoeing the edge of the tower. You got to talk them down.
Yeah. All right, a bunch of folks here. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to drop this link once again for a little giveaway. That's going to be just a very simple form where all I'm asking for is your email. I'm going to draw a winner to get a free paperback copy of Beyond Redemption. If you win, then I will email you and ask for your address so we know where to send it to. Thank you all for being here. Hit me that like and subscribe if you're here. I'd appreciate it. Fantasy Book Credit says, love the Wizards, Warriors, and Words Chaos episodes. Yep. And Morrow also, Chaos episodes were the best. Yep. So of those Chaos episodes that we're mentioning, is there any particular one that does stand out? Or
I can't remember. It was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
But I think Jed labeled them all, so they're on YouTube or whatever as Chaos episode.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's good times. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm about out of questions, Mike. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we're good. We can probably wrap that up.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, I've had a great time chatting with you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Where can people find and follow you online?
So Facebook, Michael R. Fletcher, Twitter at Fletcher MR, I think maybe. Or Fletch God Apocalypse, maybe. All the usual places, michaelrfletcher.com if you're like an old person who still looks at websites.
That's my day job is making websites, so I hope there's a lot of old people in the world.
I tricked a writer into doing my website for me. I was like, I will edit your books if you do my website. He was
smart.
Like, done. So yeah, barter for the win. I'm always around, whatever social media. I'm sure I can't be that difficult to find.
Awesome. Love it. And thank you guys for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the talk. Thanks for the questions. I hope you guys have entered the giveaway because I want to give away a book. So make sure that, otherwise it's just going to be Charlie getting the book. Make sure that someone other than Charlie too.
And it won't be me mailing it out, so you might actually get it.
All right. Thanks everyone for being here. And if no one's told you yet today, you're an absolute legend.